Hi everyone, this is your last notes video of the week. Hopefully all is going well. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. For Wednesday's video, we talked about turning percents into decimals and decimals into percents. Now we're going to go ahead with the writing fractions as percents and percents as fractions. So just a little reminder from yesterday, when we're moving decimals to percents, this is what you can think of. So think of D for decimal. That is a D. It's hard to write with a stylus, I apologize. And here is P for percent. If I'm going from decimal to percent, I move my decimal place to the right. If I'm going from percent to decimal, I'm moving my decimal point to the left. Okay, that's something that you can put on your notes to maybe make a little reminder. If you're going from decimal to percent, move your decimal point to the right. If you're moving from percent to decimal, move your decimal point to the left. Okay, so example 3, we're just continuing on from 5.5. Writing fractions as percents. I listed the steps here for you. I suggest you pause and write this down. But your steps are, the first thing you need to do is multiply your fraction to make the denominator 100. If you remember, or if you recall, or if you've ever made the connection, but percents are always numbers out of 100. For example, if you get an 80% on a test, that's 80% out of 100. Percents are always 100. Cent actually means 100. Think about the word century. That means 100 years. Think about a penny is a cent, and there are 100 pennies in a dollar. So that's where you always remember that percents are always out of 100. So if you have a fraction, what you want to do is make your denominator equal 100. So whatever number that's going to be that you change your denominator to 100, that is what you're going to multiply your numerator by, and your remaining numerator will then be your percent. So let me show you some examples. So say I have the fraction 1/25, or 1 over 25. What number can I multiply 25 by to get 100? Okay, you could think about that as a quarter. So how many quarters are in a dollar? There's 4 quarters. So I can multiply 25 times 4 to get 100. But whatever I multiply the bottom by, I have to multiply the top by. So that means 1 times 4 is 4. So now my fraction is 4 100ths. And if I have 4 100ths, my numerator is my percent, equals 4%. Anytime you have a fraction with 100 as your denominator, that numerator is the percent. Okay, so B. How about 3/10? Okay, what can I multiply 10 by to get 100? I would multiply that by 10, which means I have to multiply my numerator by 10. 3 times 10 is 30. 10 times 10 is 100, which means my percent is 30%. Okay? How about 4/5? I have to think to myself, what can I multiply 5 by to get 100? That would be 20, which means I need to multiply 4 times 20. And 4 times 20 is 80. And 5 times 20 is 100. So that is 80%. If you have questions, make sure you're jotting them down. Okay. So then let's move on to writing percents as fractions. This one has 3 steps, okay? First thing you need to do is make your percent into a decimal. So that's why we reviewed that yesterday or on the previous video. You make your percent into a decimal, and if you remember, to make percent to a decimal, I move my decimal place to the left. Then I look at the place value of the last digit of my decimal, and I make that my denominator. And I will show you what that looks like in just a second. Once you get that fraction, you're then going to have to simplify your fraction. I know it's your favorite thing to do, is simplifying fractions. So let's give it a try here. So I have 20%. Step 1 says to make this percent into a decimal. So I'm going to move my decimal place 2 spaces to the left, and I'm going to get 0.2. What place value is this 2 in? It's the tenths place. So if it's the tenths place, then that's going to make my denominator 10. And then the 2 is going to be my numerator. Okay? You would read this as 2/10. And that's how you would write that fraction, 2/10. All right? But I have to simplify. Step 3 says simplify. So I need to divide by 2 because they're both even numbers. I can simplify this down, and I'm going to get 1/5 because 2 divided by 2 is 1 and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 20% is the same thing as 1/5. All right, let's try another one. 135%. First step, make it into a decimal. I'm going to go 1, 2. So now my decimal is 1.35. So I have a whole number 1, and then I have 35 hundredths. What place value is this 5 in? The 5 is in the hundredths place. The 3 is in the tenths place, and the 1 is in the ones place. So this is going to be a mixed number because I'm going to have my whole 1, and then if I'm looking at the decimal part, the 3/5, 5 is in the hundredths place. So my my denominator is going to be 100. My numerator is going to be 35. 35 over 100. Excuse me. You would read this part as 35 hundredths. So that is why you write it as a fraction, 35 hundredths. But don't forget your 1. You need to simplify this part though. I'm going to divide it by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7, and 100 divided by 5 is, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. Don't forget your 1. 1 and 7/20 is 135%. Okay, how about 4.5%? Let's make it into a decimal. 1, 2. I'm left with 0.045 because I have to put a 0 here. Okay. What is this place value right here? This is my tens place. This is my hundredths place. This is my thousandths place. So to make this as a fraction will be 45 over 1,000. To simplify, you just have to find common factors. I know just from looking at this, I can divide them both by 5 because they end in 5 or 0. 45 divided by 5 is 9, and 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. And that is actually simplified as far as it will go. Okay, so this one takes a little work, but I know you guys got this. Go ahead, you have a little bit of an assignment for this video, and this is converting the fractions to percents and the percents to fractions. Any questions, please reach out. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.